Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy start of the week, wherever you're watching from and whenever you're watching from. Welcome to Art School Live. I am your guest host, Kari Stober, while Eric is in Italy right now painting, which is so much fun. Such a lucky guy. Today, my guest is Ann Ward. I'm really excited to welcome Ann back. She was on not that long ago doing a gouache demo. And today I'm really excited because she's got something fun to share with us. So let's go ahead and bring in Ann. Hi,
Yay,
Ann.
good morning.
How are you, Ann?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. What are you going to share with us today? I'm really excited about it.
Okay, I'm going to share my great love of the iPad and how it is an incredible tool to leverage for an art practice.
That is awesome. I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. So let's go ahead and get this show started so we can get you on your way.
Yay!
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhodes.
Kari Stober. Welcome to Art School Live. I am not Eric Rhodes. He is currently in Italy painting, so I get to be your host this week, and I'm quite excited for today's guest, Ann Ward. She is going to be showing us Procreate and how she uses it to, she's got some essential tools for digital sketching that she's going to share with us. So I am really excited for this demo. For those of you who have wanted to try digital painting, this is going to be a great start for you guys. So let's let Ann take it away.
Oh, terrific. Okay, I'm so excited. I'm going to share 3 things that are super helpful. I use Procreate and I'm using it on an iPad. And I'm sure with other programs, similar sort of, rules will apply. But the first thing I want to say is I've helped hundreds of people learn Procreate, and it brings me so much joy because using an iPad and painting digitally is a way to really create more time for an art practice and sketch every day. So I've been using it for 14 years. I carry it in my purse. I can always get to it. And it just lets me work out ideas, work small to dream big. That's what I like to say. So, okay, so the first thing I want to explain is the way in which I'm using Procreate. And I'm not using it to replace painting. I'm using it to supplement my painting and start strategizing about how I'm painting, what excites me. So people often ask, what do you do once you've made things on the iPad? And this is a sketch that I did on the iPad. They print out beautifully on canvas, paper, or whatever. So people should know that. I'm first going to show you just 8 things to know about what you can do in Procreate, just to give people a sense of this. So you're seeing that forward, not backwards, right?
Correct. Yes.
Great. I'm so dyslexic. Hard to tell. Okay. So these are just, first of all, you can be using the pencil tool, which I'm going to show you, to sketch out ideas before a brush hits the canvas. So it's phenomenal that way to be working out ideas, thinking in values, thinking in shapes. And then I'm often just taking pictures out in the world. I'm coming back home at the end of the day and just sketching out things that seem interesting. Some of these become paintings, some don't. But like when I travel with my husband, Ian, often if you're painting plein air, it can be really overwhelming to be in a new place and trying to metabolize like the changes in light and all of that. So I'm often, at the end of the day after painting, I'm reviewing my photos. I'm like just thinking more about design, what might make a good painting. And so this is a digital sketch on the left. On the right, that became a painting in my show at the museum. I'm using it as a digital diary mostly to paint just light situations. And you can take so much risk without using materials, it really is just such a great tool for getting clearer about what's exciting. And so then when you get to the easel, you've got all that momentum. So a couple more ways. These are really, really, really valuable to know. I'm working out the idea, the mood. Ian and I were watching TV the other night. I'm sketching out an idea for a painting. And, many of these become paintings. This is really important. This is a great way to use Procreate if you're a plein air painter. I'm working really big in my yard. I'm painting sometimes 50 by 60 in oil. At the end of the day, I take a picture. I bring that picture into Procreate and I plot my next moves outdoors the next day. That is a great way to be using a digital painting program. I'm using it to, take a reference photo and start figuring out what I want to subtract. I'm building a reference photo. I'm using it as a tool for what if, what's possible, so that, I'm actually making paintings in there. You can make patterns. And these last two ones are wonderful ways to use it. I encourage my students. This is a favorite Sorolla painting. And so I used on my iPad, just, create a sketch of that. You can learn so much from that process. And then this is super valuable. Take your reference photo, bring it into Procreate, and then you can press and hold on a color and you get a sense of the color family. That's super helpful at the easel. And it's just, you can make all kinds of fun illustrations there. So, okay, so now our image. I'm going to show you the 3 tools. And when I do this, I want to show you, before we get started, 3 issues that hang people up right from the beginning in Procreate, just so that you can avoid them. Let's see. Okay, so these are gestures that you can use. First of all, if somebody says they are pressing on the screen and nothing's happening, you could be on let me just get onto this layer. Okay, you could be, the first thing to check is up there at the palette, which is up at the top right. That's always going to be, your benchmark for what's going on. Whatever tool you're using is going to be highlighted blue. So the first thing you're going to check is if you're getting nothing on your screen, no pencil or anything, check to make sure this isn't set to white, because when it's white, you're not going to see anything. The second thing to check is over here. This is another tool we're going to be using. This is the opacity tool. And sometimes when that's all the way down at the bottom, nothing's going to show up on your screen. So know that. This is the rewind tool. I'm just showing you these at the overhead view, because when I'm sharing my screen, you won't be able to see this as clearly. So those are 2 things to look out for. The third thing that if there's nothing appearing on the screen, check to make sure the eraser isn't highlighted blue. That can be an issue. And the final thing I want to show you in the overhead view is 2 final things. Sometimes people, when they're getting used to being on Procreate, they leave their stylus on the screen, and then you get all this weird wonky stuff going on. So that becomes sort of something you learn over time. But, you have to make sort of shorter strokes. So just know that. And the final thing I want to show you in this overhead view is, if you want to erase something, you go backwards over here at the bar on the left. But another way to do it is tap with 2 fingers on the screen and it'll go away. So those are really helpful tips. And now I can be here in overhead view for you. So the first thing to look at is I think it's just helpful to really start subtracting. And I chose this because it's got a really strong dark and light value arrangement. And here's what that looks like, just so that you guys can see here. So, that's pretty dramatic. We'd almost say, like, if we're squinting, it's almost 3 values.
Yeah.
So that can be, a helpful place to just start thinking. And the great part about being on the iPad is that we can take lots of risks here. And there's, there's no repercussion for it, because you can just unwind or rewind. And the only thing to sort of know is it functions. You can rewind. It functions just like if you were sort of viewing a film strip. Procreate will record all of your steps along the way, and you can rewind as long as the file is open. But the second you go up and hit gallery, it's closing out your file, so you can't rewind.
Okay, gotcha.
So those are good things to know. So, okay, so let's talk about our 3 tools that we're going to use and where to find them. The first thing to know, I'm going to need to show you this overhead, is where our brushes are. And I'm going to show you this overhead. It's right up here. And Procreate just came out with 200 new brushes, which are amazing. But that's so overwhelming. I still suggest, and I've gone through most of them, I still suggest just the 3 we're going to work on today. But what you should know right now is that the way this is structured is a little different than it was before. You're going to have the option to share now your brushes to the cloud. That's what I would suggest. And you navigate through the new brushes, which appear here, and the classic brushes, which are what we're going to be doing by tapping. And so the first tool that we'll use is under sketching, and it's the 6B. And then you tap on the screen. We'll go up here, and the outer wheel is always going to take you to the color value and the color family. And then the inner wheel, the way I like to say it is just in a super simplified way. The more chromatic something is, the more intense the color, it's going to be at the top right. Then that's still a darker value with some chroma. And then if you want just like a grayer value, you're going to go over and to the left, and then, up here to get the lightest light. So we're going to choose a pencil color. So I'm going to go around to the orange and then down here to a pencil color. And then you can always check up there. That's the color you're working with. Okay, so, all right. So now what I like to do is just the width of the brush, you're going to adjust over here on the left. And so this is a fun thing to know. You can kind of draw a square, and you can keep your stylus on the canvas, and it'll make that for you. So now I'm going to go, I think I went really fast the other day when we were working in gouache. I'm going to just work really slowly so that we can work through the 3 tools. And then if anyone has any questions, just go ahead and, let me know, and we'll work through those. So if I'm squinting, this is such a shape-driven design that we need very little drawing to make it work. So you can certainly have Procreate draw an ellipse for you, the way we just did the square, by keeping your stylus on the screen. But here we go. So
are you using your iPad to take photos, or are you taking those with your camera and importing to your iPad?
yeah, I'm taking them with my usually with my phone, which is, don't laugh, this is like, it is so obscene. I think I have 40,000 photos on my phone. It's terrible. So anyway, that is what it is. That's the problem with being inspired by the world at large.
Right.
So
Also, the other question we have is, how do you insert an image onto your canvas?
I've got a little guide on my website. I think that's got all the steps to it.
Perfect.
But you're going to go to the wrench. There's two ways to do it. You're going to go to the wrench and then click on add. And then that will allow you to add a photo in as a layer. And then you kind of have to shrink it down. Do people want me to show you how to do that?
Nope, you explained it, and then someone else in the chat explained it too, so that's helpful.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so so now let's see here. So I'm going to do this. And I'm just, again, just like we did last time, I'm just squinting and seeing the shapes and the negative space between things. Okay, so okay. So we've got essentially an oval, then we've got the vase, there. Okay, and now what I would do is just roughly consider where, if I'm squinting, which I always am, okay, I've got the center of that flower, I've got the center of this. Okay, so those are sort of the landmarks. And now what I would do is just kind of follow a contour here. Okay, of just the edge. And why this is fun and interesting to me is that we've got a really dramatic value pattern, and we've got the complexity of the world reduced to a pretty simple value structure. And also just that I tend to see things like, I tend to sort of say, okay, is it 75-25? And so is it 75% land, 25% sky, 75% shadow, 25% light? And so this falls into that category for me, where it's, the scales are sort of tipped more in the direction of this mostly being in shadow, with with a highlight around the edge of all of these flowers here. So it becomes about kind of painting a scenario rather than painting isolated things, if that makes sense. Okay, so now let's do this. I love, as you can tell, I love painting on the iPad so much. I can't even contain my joy about it. It's just, it really allowed me, when my kids were younger, to make art every day, just those days that get so busy and overwhelming.
So with your reference image, did you manipulate that before you imported it, or is that just the photo that you took?
That's just the photo I took. Yeah. But you could certainly go into this image here, and probably like right now, just because, we've got the time consideration, I'm not going to do the gardening shears. And so once you bring something in, you can literally just, kind of erase that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And say, okay, what can I leave out? So I think of painting really as being a process of subtracting, so that, subtract for impact. So, okay, so now we've got that, and then let's do, move on to the second tool. So The second tool, if you go up to the brushes that I recommend, is just the round brush. And I've been using this now 14 years, I guess, probably. It's given me so much, it's just helped me build confidence in terms of what I'm seeing and why I'm wanting to paint it. And then it really matters so much when I do get to the easel to have worked things out here first. So the first thing I would do is squint, look at this big area at the back here that it's a dark value. So, you could put down, and it's not to say, it's always open to interpretation, obviously. So, I'm going to just go onto my color wheel, go over to the left and the bottom, which becomes, pretty desaturated dark. And then I'd start massing it in, and I just treat it like a coloring book. I just then start working into those spaces. And I do the same when I'm actually painting. I'm covering one area. I'm going to work kind of bigger brush to smaller. And then what I like to do is kind of cover the whole canvas and then go back in and start carving things, carve the darks into the light areas. And at the very last, I usually put the lightest lights. So I'm spending most of the time just working the relationships between things, which is, that's the discipline, because that's the part that's less, that takes a lot of patience. And, it's more fun to jump to the highlights, but the highlights need the work of the discipline of just the slow patience of looking and comparing one area to the other.
Well, and those highlights aren't going to pop if you don't put in the darks first.
That's right. Yeah. And the midtones and sometimes I'll do even just like a little value map before I get started, either on my palette in real life. Like I'll do that here right now, just so that people can carry this back to the easel, because it's a really helpful idea. Is I'll just create sort of a roadmap for myself and say, okay, like on my palette when I'm working in oil, okay, that's going to be my darkest dark. And then I'm keying everything off of that. So then when I'm squinting, I'm saying the shadow under the, I know from painting outdoors in my garden a lot, the shadow under the vase is going to have more blue to it. So that's going to be a little bit lighter. And then maybe the light on the tablecloth has some green bouncing into it, the shadow area, of the tablecloth. And so I'm going to that's going to be a warmer sort of shadow area. And then I'm going to say, okay, then I've got the vase itself in the shadow, and it's got some chroma to it. I don't want it to overwhelm everything else. So maybe that's going to be sort of in this range here. And then my most chromatic thing is going to be not even the lightest light necessarily of the sunflower, but maybe the shadowed area of the sunflower. So I'm going to put that there. And then that's all going to make space for my lightest light on the sunflower, which could be that.
So you're selecting each of these colors based on what you think. Carl is asking if you're able to pixelate your reference image and then use those as like color matching chips.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the thing that I find is sometimes it might skew it even a little bit darker than
Mhm.
you would. So I tend to,
Photos
it can
live.
go a little flatter sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can also just up here, it will pull. I'm not sure if this is pulled actually. I think you have to, generally, you have to import the palette from the image. This is the new version of Procreate. So I'm not sure if it's automatically pulling that up. But I think it's good practice to just be, you know, to just be practicing looking at those and naming those colors and getting a sense for it. So the
Right.
great thing,
It's your liberty as an artist to be able to change this versus just replicating the reference.
that's right. And there is nothing greater in Procreate than like absolute creative, authority and such creative freedom to really, um, just absolutely take so many risks, because I think the truth is when you're painting outside from life, plein air, it's just that you have to be like like a high performing athlete where you've done the work of really looking, observing, knowing, having a color vocabulary at your fingertips, so that when you get out there you're able to respond to what you're seeing spontaneously. And so some of the work of that, I think, you can attend to being on an iPad, because you're really able to start, just really be like developing those muscles every day, that help you when you get out there. So the next thing, and plus you have all the time in the world, which is also helpful. So the next thing I would do is, just from that point, then, like in terms of its strategy, inside, outside, whatever, is just squint and say, okay, the next big dark area I have that's closest in value to this background area is the shadow area in that flower group. So you could actually, to answer Carl's question, you could, press and hold, obviously, on the photo itself. That's another way of doing it. I tend to just find the colors and then, go back in. So I've got my dark up there. I'm squinting and saying, I think it's really helpful. I encourage my students to just be verbalizing, the color, as they work. So to sort of say out loud, okay, so now I've got, what is that area there in that shadow, in that grouping of flowers? Well, it's lighter than what's behind there. So I'm going to just move up in the inner wheel. It's lighter. It's a slightly lighter value, and it's slightly more chromatic. So from the place of the background color, if you're seeing me on the color wheel, I'd go say, okay, it's slightly lighter, so I'm going to move the color up on the inner wheel. And so that's still gray, and it's a little more chromatic, and I'm going to go a little to the right. So I'm just going to put that in, squint, kind of generalize. And so we're just going from like big shape to big shape, big brush to eventually smaller brushes. Okay. And I'm really going to take my time so that we can work through this slowly. And, you'll just have to trust that the painting turned out decent. So I decided I care more about people understanding Procreate than how this
No, that's good.
appears. So, okay. And then the next thing I would probably do, like, let's say we're in the green family there. So we're going to just squint. And even though there's a lot of chroma in that vase, it can't be, there's a lot of light bouncing into it. So I'm going to move the outer wheel a little more towards a yellow family. And it's a little lighter than what I just put down. And it's still, we're going to need to gray it out a bit. So I'm going to just put it in this family for right now. And then we just cover everything and then we can adjust. All right, now the next thing I would do is say, okay, the next big shape I've got, if I'm squinting, is that chromatic shadow that's on the tabletop. I could just press and hold that color that I made. And that's too dark, so I'm going to just go up to my color wheel and just gray it out, but make it lighter. So gray it out by moving it left and make it lighter. All right. Okay, so now we've got that. And so now the thing to do is, I know the shadow color it's got some reflected grass bouncing back into it. So it's a little bit warmer. So if I'm squinting, the value's probably about the same. So I could just keep the inner wheel where the value is intact, and I could go around to sort of a yellow version of that and just see how that works. I can make my brush lighter. I may have it a bit too dark, but I'll just put it down and then we can keep adjusting. And then from there, I just move over to the chair, which is a little bit bluer. So I could just go back to my shadow color here on the table and just find some slightly bluer version of that. And that's maybe a bit too chromatic, so I'm going to move it over into a gray. And then I'm going to just put this down, and then we can just go back in. One thing I really love when I'm out in the yard is actually that chair. It's been in so many paintings, but it actually can be kind of a turquoise color, which is so much fun. Okay, so let's say that's like that, just for the heck of it. And so let's say right now, this is a cool thing to be able to do. Let's say right here, I've got like more of a discrepancy between the light plane and then the side plane of that. What I could do is, this gets to our third tool that I want to share with you, which is over here. The slider. So right now I've been working.
Opacity?
Yeah, the opacity.
Okay. Sorry, your photo is covering it, so I just wanted to make sure that I was talking.
Oh yeah,
about
thank you. Yes. So look at me. I'm just a tech wizard today. So here we go. So here we go. You go over here, and this is the third tool to really leverage. And I'm going to show you right now a way to leverage that. Okay. So let's say I want the plane of the table and the side plane to really feel more integrated. I could click on the color that's on the tabletop, and then I could reduce the opacity substantially. Like right now I've got it at 20%, and I could just go, and that's a little too minimal, but I can go back in to that tabletop and work in some of that color. That's, some of the blue that's there. And it's right now my opacity is at 40%, but with each successive pass, you're kind of darkening the effect of that. So you can just be kind of layering, basically. So that is a wonderful thing to leverage. So now the next thing I would do is just squint and say, okay, the center of the sunflowers, I know there's some warmth to them. So we're going to just be in the range of orange, let's say, and it's not too chromatic. So I'm going to just go with that. I think it's better sometimes to just kind of tell a bold, I don't know, go bold or go home. Just, just put it down sometimes a little bit darker even than you think, and just work backwards from that. You can always, I think it's easier sometimes to sort of tiptoe backwards from really bold color than to try to inch up to it afterwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now let's go to the colors for the underside of our sunflowers. And there are a few things in life more humbling than trying to paint a sunflower from life, like an actual sunflower that you've grown in your garden. I would say avoid at all costs. So I think there's an element of, especially, I don't know, painting flowers from life, and especially in the yard, that distance can be your friend. And so by that, I mean that if you're a little further away, in this case, from a sunflower, you're seeing it in context rather than in isolation. And so there's a specificity that happens when you're painting sunflowers from life, especially like a sun, like, I've grown 8-foot sunflowers. That's super hard because it becomes a rendering problem rather than a relating problem. It becomes a rendering problem rather than a design consideration. So I like to be a little further away from the subject so that I can be seeing in simple shapes. So there's like I'm just squinting and saying, okay, there's some light there, and I'll just put down some light there. Okay, I'm putting down my chroma now. Okay, and let's say if I'm squinting, I'm going to put in that, those flowers have a funny name. I think they're called gomphrena. And I've grew them once upon a time. Let's see, put those there.
I have not been keeping track of time. We've got about 15 minutes.
Oh, great. Okay, I think we're good. I've got a version of this digitally so that if we don't get to the end, I can just pull that up. If you let me know like 2 minutes before, I'll just pull it up to share. Okay, so now at this point, let me just put down, I've sort of just, let's just make that apple red because that would look better. So I'm going to just make that apple a bit more red-ish. Oops, that's too dark. There we go. That's nice. We've got my husband Ian here. He's usually the one on YouTube. He's oopsies. Let's go there. Okay. All right. So now let's start refining things. I guess what I should do first is let me just add some of the lights there. So there's my kind of center area. Now I'm going to squint and say, okay, the area, it's creating kind of a halo effect. The area around that center shadow area is a bit more chromatic, and it's a teeny bit lighter. So I'm going to take that inner wheel, move it lighter. So I'm moving it up and I'm moving it to the right, which is going to make it a bit more chromatic. And I'm going to kind of squint. There we go. And squint here. So if anything, I'm hoping that things are making sense to people. I think maybe the biggest takeaway, I hope, for people is just to know that it's a different way of conceiving of using the iPad to just use it as a digital sketchbook rather than to replace painting.
Right.
Yeah. Because you certainly could replace painting, and that may be coming with AI. We hope not. But in the meantime, I think that it's super relaxing to work on the iPad.
Well, and it's nice too if you're, especially if it's in the winter and you can't go outside, it's too cold, or you're traveling. Like, it's nice just to have that kind of in your pocket and pull it out and say, hey, I really like this. You're waiting for the bus or, something.
Yeah. It's just always there. You just get a chance to like just literally, and the best part, I was going to make the joke, but it's true. When I work on the iPad, the best part is I get to wear grown-up clothes. I get to appear as a grown-up out in the world.
Wear all of the layers.
You don't have to be in your painting clothes all day.
I have a question for you. So you talked about how, you use the pretty basic, 3 brushes with Procreate.
Yeah.
There are so many out there. There's thousands of them.
Yes.
I've seen special tips for the pencil, or I've seen gloves. Like, do you feel like you need that kind of stuff?
I don't honestly know what the gloves are for. I'll tell you one thing.
Do you touch the screen with your hand and it makes a mark?
Well, here, let me put it here so you can see. I guess you get used to it. So like right now, you can see if my hand were there, it might adjust things more. The one thing I will say is that this is the Apple Pencil Pro, and it works with the iPad Pro, which I love. And the older version of this pencil doesn't work with this current version of iPad. And this pencil is kind of maddening, to be honest. I think I actually prefer. So see, it's so sophisticated that you can tap it and pull things up, and you could squeeze the side and you get this crazy menu. I don't love that. So I just use it out of the box. I've also just used over the years, I think starting in 2011, before they came out with the first pencil, I just used a regular old simple freebie stylus that I'd gotten somewhere. I made so many sketches that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love it. And the brush thing, you could definitely go down the rabbit hole of the brushes. There's so many fun ways to do that. I've used brushes for things that I've illustrated. When I've wanted sort of textures and things, when I make books. But for the act of just sketching from photos, I prefer to just use my 3 tools. Yeah. So I'm going now into just, we haven't even put our lightest lights on, but I'm just now carving back into some of those areas. So
if you're sitting on the couch doing this while you're watching TV, how long does it typically take you?
Well, see, it's funny because I was see, I would normally say an hour, but the thing is, yesterday I was sort of practicing this, realizing, oh, wait a second, I lose track of time. So, yeah, I'll be sitting there for, golly, easily Some of them, I'll tell you, you can tell actually, you can go up to the settings and it will tell you how long something's taken you to make. So you can go to your settings and then you can go to preferences and it will tell you, oh, sorry, you'll go to canvas and it will tell you under canvas information, how long something took you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And you can also share you can share your videos, obviously. You can share your process. I'm going to just reduce the opacity. So I like to, like let's say right now, which I'm doing, I'm wanting to strengthen a dark area. You could pick up a color and then reduce the opacity and then just kind of work back in. So if I wanted to tone down some greens or something, you can be going back in over a color and just toning it down that way, which is great. And then I'm going to just carve into the edge of some of those flowers before we add our lights. But you're right. It's so great for all seasons to be working on an iPad. It's wonderful. I've had so many people over the years who maybe they've got a health thing going on. Painting can be so physical and require such physicality that it's wonderful to be able to sit anywhere and sketch. I will say that the one thing I've noticed is that it's tricky with this iPad, it's in theory better to paint outdoors. I just find there's a lot of glare still. I just prefer to work analog when I'm actually outside and then work out the ideas inside. Let's see. I know from life we're going to be sort of in the realm of a pinky white. So we'll just put that down. Oops. But it's just, I gotta say that over the years, just being able to sketch out ideas, figure out what really excites me, and then to just be able to take chances. That's the thing I was going to say, is that there's an aspect of, to me, painting, like the part that becomes really thrilling is sort of the jeopardy of wondering if you can pull it off. And so the thing that's wonderful about Procreate is you get to take those risks and just see if something can work. And then when you get outside, you get to sort of replicate that with maybe some colors that you wouldn't have considered, or maybe you're better poised to, as a result of working on the iPad, you're better poised to try and paint a sunset because you've been practicing with some colors that, on the fly, that on Procreate, so that when you're getting out there, you're able to just be really nimble relative to a color vocabulary. So now I would just be squinting and saying, okay, where's some of my lighter lights? Dun, dun, dun. Go up here. I'd go there. I'd make my brush a little smaller, just like I would. I'm going to move this a little bigger. And
we've got about 5 minutes.
Oh, great. Okay. Look at that. And I have just, I probably, forgive me for being redundant here, but really and truly, my great joy is when I get a note from someone who's inspired again about painting, and that they found time to make art again as a result of using Procreate. That just has brought me to tears on many occasions, because it's just everything to be, I don't know, to help people stay creative makes me just, it's my great joy.
That's wonderful.
Yep. And I got a note from someone who took my class, and she'd actually been using, I didn't even realize that she had created 2 beautiful sketches that she sent to me. One was, I thought it was pastel, and she had done it on the iPad, not with the tools I'm showing today, but with some different ones. And then she did a beautiful painting of some boxes. So it just, I think there's so many things that are possible using Procreate. So, okay, I'm going to show one thing here that is really helpful. Let me show it in the overhead. So, like, let's say, again, you can probably see it. You can see it on the screen, but I just want to show it again here. Like, let's just say I've got this area is like too green, or I've got too hard a value line that's happening. You can, one way to soften it is you're clicking on the color there that's around it, lowering the opacity, and then just slowly working that back in. Another way to do it that I don't do, but one thing I thought about demonstrating today was clouds. And you can use this tool. It works just like a brush, so that you're controlling the size of it over here at the top on the brush bar. And you can use that to blend an edge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't tend to use that, but you could, like,
yeah, if you wanted.
Yeah, you could kind of feather something. So that's a good thing to know about. Okay. And then let's see. Okay. And how about, does anybody have any questions?
You've done a very good job explaining everything today.
Oh, yay. That makes me so happy.
Did you want to show, you said you had a finished painting?
Yes, I do. Okay, let me show you that. Okay, but everyone hopefully gets that sense of, oh wait, just before I close this out, I'm just going to show just, I would go up here, and some of those lights just would be, resting in, we'd find some of those lights, some of the lights on the 𝗘𝗶𝗴𝗶, and then, work back into it. But hopefully that's given people a sense. Here's that image, just as it would look, say, on the iPad. I'd probably go back in. Sometimes when you've reduced the opacity, you can go back in and just, find some textures there, just by going in with more opaque color.
Very cool.
So, that's that. That's Procreate.
And you did an amazing job sharing that. That was awesome. That made it, I feel like I actually could go into Procreate tonight and try to do that. That was awesome.
You can. And you just send me a note if you have any questions, because it's so much fun.
So be sure to check out Anne's website. She's got a helpful guide on there for some of the Procreate stuff she does. She's got some YouTube videos on there. She also does classes for this kind of stuff. So be sure to check out her website. We're dropping that in the chat. You can also find her on Instagram at annward.art. And she's also going to be on our upcoming Digital Painting Live in June of next year. So I'm really excited for that. There's going to be some more information on the website in the next month or so. But be sure to check that out. You are definitely going to enjoy it. And thank you so much. It was so wonderful.
Thank you. That was so fun.
Wonderful. Yes, it was. Thank you. So free gift for everyone watching today. You can download the free 97 Incredible Art Secrets. You just have to go to 97artsecrets.com/ASL. And if you haven't already signed up for Plein Air Live, that is coming up in just a couple of weeks, November 6th through the 8th. And we have Essential Techniques Day on November 5th. So if you want to try to fast track your outdoor painting in 3 days and study with a bunch of different artists, make sure you sign up at pleinairlive.com. And we also have a short video for that.
Every artist knows the frustration. You want to grow, to break through, to see your paintings come alive. But too often you're painting alone, stuck in the same routines, not knowing what's missing. Photos lie, books only go so far, and it can feel like the true secrets of painting are locked away. But what if, in just 3 days, you could watch the world's top plein air and landscape painters, brush in hand, showing you every step of their process? What if you could ask your questions and learn the techniques it took them decades to master without ever leaving home? This November, join us for Plein Air Live, the world's largest online painting conference. You'll learn from legends like Kevin McPherson, Cindy Barron, Kathleen Hudson, Cami Medlick, Bill Davidson, Mike Hernandez, and dozens more hand-picked masters. Across 3 days, plus an optional Essential Techniques Day for a guided refresher, you'll watch demonstrations, join interactive breakout rooms, and even paint along in evening sessions with new friends from around the globe. This kind of lineup will never happen again. You could spend tens of thousands traveling to workshops and still never gather this much talent in one place. But at Plein Air Live, it all comes to you. Don't miss your chance to grow, to connect, and to be inspired. Join us at Plein Air Live, November 6th through 8th, 2025.
I'm really excited for that. It's going to be a fun time. I definitely need to work on some plein air painting. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel at Art School Live on YouTube and at Eric Rhodes on Instagram. That way you get notified whenever we go live with amazing content like we did today. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. We have artist Sarah Calandro coming on. This is going to be a super fun demo, so you don't want to miss that. Thank you guys all so much for joining us today. Thank you to Anne. What wonderful instruction. Such a great demo today. Thank you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.